Good evening and salutations, my GH fans. A lot happened in this episode. I want to talk about Lulu for a minute. So, Lulu is walking around the docks late at night for some odd reason by herself. And she comes across Dante. They start talking, and, Dante apologizes for, overstepping his boundaries, but not apologizing for wanting to protect her. And, they have a talk, and they have kind of a nice moment and stuff like that. And, they have a moment for a minute, and then she kind of, snaps herself out of it, and, she decides to leave. And she goes to the floating rib to, I guess, get, a takeout order. Now, at the time, she goes in there and she meets her mother, and she meets Scott. And I'm not gonna lie, she has this rude interaction with Scott, oh, so what are you doing here with Scotty? I'm like, how old are you too? Rudeness? So, after that little, blip, I'm gonna sit there and say, she's talking to her mother, and she has a conversation about Dante, and she pretty much is like, I love Dustin, but I'm still in love with Dante. Now, I mean, come on, let's be honest. This didn't really catch anyone by surprise. What's going to be the surprising moment is what she decides to do with that, Now, the mature thing to do, to not really tear anyone's heart or hurt anyone, and mainly Dustin, is to be honest with him, Just tell him flat out. I mean, yeah, it sucks, because he already moved in, he already sitting there thinking that they got a good thing going on, and, it'll suck, but at least she's honest, and that'll be that. But knowing Lulu and knowing the way that they're going to sit there and write this, they're going to write this in a way where Lulu's going to sit there and push down her feelings, and it's going to get to a point where she's, constantly meeting Dante, and she's going to be all like, oh, well, it's just for the kids, and yada, yada, yada. And sooner or later, Dustin is either going to have a backbone and confront her, or he's going to catch her doing something with Dante, and it's going to break his heart, and Lulu is going to be all apologetic, and I'm sorry, and, everyone's going to be mad at Lulu. Not for how she feels about Dante, but for the way she's handling it. Because I have a feeling she's going to handle it in the most poor, piss way possible. Now, before Lulu met Laura was having a conversation with Scotty, and she was talking about a secret, some sort of police report that Cyrus wanted. And they didn't really get into too much detail about it. It just happens to, whatever this file is, it involves Laura, and it somewhat involves Scott. Not in a huge way, but some sort of way. So whatever's going to happen is going to happen soon with Laura. Now, talk about Ava and Julian. So Ava comes over to Julian's place, and Julian's all like, oh, you gotta leave, I'm in a rush or whatever, and Ava's like, you know what, listen, let me just catch you up on some stuff. So she talks about the Ryan Chamberlain thing, and about how Nicholas came in and diverted attention away from Ava by, saying that, it was Nicholas that put out the hit on Ryan. And so she's like, so you're kind of cleared, at least for now. And then she was like, she suspected that the other person that he owed a favor to or whatever was Cyrus. And she's like, you need to get out of Dodge. Now. What are you doing you know, being, you know, getting yourself connected with Cyrus out of all people. Um, and so, you know, she's like, you gotta leave, and Julian's like, I'm gonna stay, and, you know, protect my family, whatever that meant. I'm like, bro, why don't you just sit there and tell her the truth? Because, let's be honest, it doesn't just affect her, it affects Avery, it affects a lot of people, but there's pictures of Ava and Avery, and I'm like, you could have at least warned her, you know? Make her get some extra bodyguards, whatever. But just sit there and be like, you're not going to say anything? Like, what is your grandmaster plan of getting out of this one? You know, a lot, and it's so funny. There's a clip, General Hospital clip called, 1 second. I think it's called Actions Have Consequences. And this is pretty much the clip of yesterday of Cyrus schooling, schooling Julian on why his life sucks. And when I read those comments, people who didn't even like Cyrus was like, you know what? I don't like him, but he's right. About everything that Cyrus said about Julian. And I was like, wow, that's pretty hilarious. So, you know, after, you know, they exchange the, you know, I love you, whatever. Ava walks out. She almost trips over a box. And that box is, whatever it is. He picks up the box. He gets a call from one of Cyrus's guys telling him, you know, deliver the package at so-and-so place. I don't know what this package is. Because at first, alright, towards the end of this episode, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, well, it's a bomb, obviously, right? But you see, like, the way the camera angles is focused on people, there's certain people that's in place of, you know, inside the floating rib. So I'm like, well, why would Cyrus put his own people, you know, in a bomb attack? Makes no sense, but okay. And so it ends with that. Like, literally, I think that's the last scene. Now, earlier, Cyrus was, well, alright, let me backtrack a little bit. So, Sam is sitting there having dinner with Daddy, and, you know, she hears somebody just being really loud, so she turns around and it's Alexis. And Alexis says she had one drink, but she looks like she had about, like, 7 or 9. Well, okay, maybe we were, like, 4 or 5. And she's talking to some old buddies or whatever, and, you know, Sam comes over there, and she's like, what's going on? And, you know, once again, she writes her off. She's like, you know what, listen, I'm done. I'm not going to lecture you. You do what you want. I'm done. So she walks off, and I guess she walks back to Danny's table. And Cyrus walks up to her, and, you know, he puts out his hand or whatever, and Alexis just goes off on him. Like, you're a drug dealer, and you do cocaine, and you sell cocaine, and Neil died because of your habits, and, you know, because of your products and stuff like that. And let's put it this way. Cyrus done had enough of people disrespecting her. And I haven't said this in a while, but I feel like I need to say this. Somebody's going to have to die for everyone else to live. And so Cyrus is just sick and tired of people just giving him lip. He's like, you don't want to embarrass me, because if you do that, I'm going to embarrass you. And he puts his hand on Alexis' shoulder. And I don't remember if she told him to get off, like, put your hands off me or whatever. But Jason is just like, is there a problem? Because it looks like there's a problem. He's just standing there, you know, he just has a stone cold look on his face, like, you know, where he just doesn't have to say anything. It's amazing. When Jason actually has that look in his face, he doesn't even have to say anything. He can just look at you and you know, like, you know you're in trouble. You know, like, it's not going to end well. So, you know, he's there, and then Sam comes over there, and, you know, Alexis, like, you know, for once I agree with him, you should get your hands off me. And so, he puts his hands off, and then he says to Jason, so, you and Sonny keeping secrets? What kind of secrets are you keeping? That's not what he said, but he alluded somewhere along those lines. And then, he was like, oh, I'm not going to do anything to mess up the truth, and I hope you guys aren't either. And then he walks off or whatever. And then, Sam talks to Alexis, and she's like, you know what, listen, why don't you get yourself cleaned up and, come by, whatever, and see the boys, see Sam, Danny and Scout. And she's like, oh, I thought you were dead center against that. And she was like, no, it'll be good for you, trust me. And then she gets herself cleaned up, and she's, gonna be heading over to, I don't know if it's Sam's place, but I think it might be Sam's place. I think it's Sam's place. So she gets ready to, she heads out, and she, pays her tab or whatever. And Jason's like, so, I thought you was dead set against, her spending any time with the kids. And she's like, no, I am. We're going to do an intervention. Okay. I'm not even going to get into that because, I don't know what that's like, and I have no experience in that expertise. But I can imagine that is, I think the last time that I saw an intervention done on that show was with Luke. And everyone else around him, and it didn't really end well. But, I don't know. I kind of look at that scenario, like, you can't force somebody to get help. They gotta actually want it. They have to hit rock bottom, before they decide, if they decide that they want help. But it kind of gotta be on them. But, that's her plan, and she calls, Sam calls Diane, and, to get her to the intervention. So we may see Diane tomorrow. Now Sam is like, listen, since we're going to be doing an intervention, and, why don't you hang out with Danny, and, Jason's like, I'm going to teach him how to play pool. And so, he, takes him to the floating rib. And this is where Scotty and Laura, I guess, are still talking, and pretty much everyone's there, and you got, Jason and Danny there, and I'm assuming that they're going to do something that involves blowing up the floating rib, I imagine. Or at least damaging a little bit, I don't know. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Side note that I want to just sit there and say really quickly, when was the last time that they actually had some sort of, like, big disaster that everyone was involved in? Like, the hostage situation with, Jerry Jacks holding up everyone hostage or whatever, or the Metro fire. I think there was 2 of them. When was the last time it was something like that happened? That involved all the different characters. Still waiting for another one of those. So yeah, I guess we're gonna see what's gonna happen with that. Now let's talk about Britt and Brad. Britt and Brad. I'm gonna sit there and say right off the bat that I do not like Brad at all. I think that he is a lowlife. I think that this guy is a snake. And listen, I know that he went through his redemption arc, and he's changed, and he's somewhat of a better person to some extent. Listen, let me tell you the scene of Brad that just rubbed me the wrong way, that I just have never gotten past. This is when Brad was going to try to blackmail Michael into having sex with him because, Michael and Kiki was still a thing, but, they might have been cousins or whatever. And so Brad was like, I'm going to sit there and tell everyone that, you're kissing your cousin or whatever if you don't have sex with me. So I felt like, for me, that was the lowest that he's went. And granted, he's, done some other various things. But for me, that part was just like, wow, that is so scumbaggish on so many levels. I just I can't look at that character the same way. So, he's in the hospital, whatever, and he's been stabbed, and he finally wakes up. Britt is just like, waiting there, whatever, and 1 second. She's sitting there, she wakes up, whatever, because she's talking to Brad while he's asleep, or whatever, like, she's so, she feels like she's kind of alone. She doesn't really have a lot of friends in Port Charles, and, her mother is, well, lethal, so, Peter, she doesn't know if she can trust, and, Brad has always been there for her, so, he finally wakes up, and he doesn't even remember how he got there in the beginning, and then he's like, well, you know what, listen, Cyrus, Renault, or his boys or whatever, attacked me. And he was like, because of Julian. Now, earlier, I think yesterday's episode, Cyrus was like, listen, I need to tie up loose ends, because what's the point of having some over your head if somebody else knows about it? So, Britt is like, oh, that weasel or whatever. But, Britt is like, listen, I know somebody that can sit there and help us out. I mean, listen, here's the thing. I admire her friendship with Brad because, let's be honest, that's pretty much the only friend she has in Port Charles. Even though that I have real personal issues against this guy, I'm going to say. I admire her friendship with them, like that's cool or whatever. And I guess we'll just wait and see. Now, earlier, I know I'm kind of going a little back and forth, whatever, but earlier, Carly met up with Jason, and Carly was like, listen, is it going to get bad? Because if it's going to get bad between you and, this whole mob war, I need to sit there and kind of get the kids to the island. And, at first, Jason's like, let's not panic, let's just let it play out. I got some in the works. And at first, Carly's like, cool, whatever. But then she's like, all right, I need to know. I need to know a little more. Not details, but who are you talking to? And at first, Jason's like, I'm talking to Britt to sit there and try to get her on outside, to be an inside person. And Carly is just like, oh, well, no one in town likes her. Carly, no one in town liked you either. And she was all like, oh, well, they were wrong about me. Are you sure about that, Carly? Are you 100% sure? I don't know if everyone's really that wrong about you, but whatever. It just, when she said that, I was like, really? Because you're in that same exact predicament. So, that's really hypocritical for you to come out your mouth and even say that. Like, are you kidding me? But, Jason's like, well, you know what, listen, she signed up for something, she was upset, and I guess she didn't realize that she got a little bit over her head, so hopefully she'll do the right thing. And then after that, Carly went back home, and she walks in the door, and she sees Taggart. And she's not that upset with Sonny, but she's more like, you do realize that Jocelyn does just walk on in, or she's at the terrace, like, anyone can see you. Like, what are you doing? And then even when Taggart explains it, Carly's just like, you got to be more careful because you got so many people knowing who, that you're alive. Who else knows? And that's when Sonny's like, oh, yeah, I forgot about Julian. I got to sit there and tell her that Julian knows that Target's alive. Because even at that point, Carly's like, too many people know this guy's secret. It's going to blow up in his face sooner or later. Because even when Taggart was there talking to Sonny, Taggart was like, oh, I'm just keeping my eye on, for Trina and Portia. And Sonny's like, I got that covered. Can you just stop and chill for a minute before you ruin everything? Now, to some extent, I don't know exactly how much Sonny has that covered. Because anyone, Portia mostly spends her time at the hospital. There's no one that's really loyal to Sonny that's going to sit there and look out for Portia if something happens. Unless he just has secret people that no one knows about, but whatever. I don't know. I at this point, I'm just waiting for somebody to Actually, never mind. I was gonna sit there and say I'm waiting for somebody to figure out if Taggart's alive, but well, Cyrus knows, so there goes that plan. And you know what? That is Taggart's fault. That is Taggart's fault. I know people are sitting there saying Julian threw him under the bus, which he did, and I was probably a little premature about my whole reason for why Julian decided to, tell Cyrus that Taggart was alive. But Taggart shouldn't have been hanging around Port Charles so much, so I still blame him for that. 1 second. Now, a couple other things. After Lulu leaves the docks, this is when this doctor comes in. And the doctor, or the doctor slash handler now, is asking for an update about Dante. Dante gives this doctor, whatever his name is, the flash drive. And this flash drive contained evidence that proved that, the information about Liesel, committing all these crimes was fabricated. But it doesn't really tie it back to Peter. And the doctor's like, well, this satisfies, this is good enough to satisfy me. And when he said that, me and Dante was like, what do you mean satisfy you? You're supposed to satisfy the Bureau. What do you mean satisfy you? And when Dante started coming up with a bunch of reasons of why this wouldn't work and how he would get burned, the doctor just does the whole clicky pen thing, and well, that pretty much ends that. And so, Dante is just, I guess, under hypnosis or whatever, and the doctor tells him to go home and forget about it, and, everything will be better in the morning. And then after that, the doctor calls Liesel and is like, oh, I got great news, and this doctor really doesn't realize that he's getting played like a damn fiddle, but whatever. He tells her that, the charge, well, he pretty much gives him the good news about the flash drive. I don't remember exactly what he said word for word. Now, Peter and Maxie were talking, and it wasn't really that super important. Peter was just on Petra. Okay, he was petrified that somebody was going to sit there and find out all his dirty little secrets, and it was going to jeopardize his happiness, and Maxie was there to calm and cool him down. And then there was one other part where I guess I didn't realize how tight Maxie and Jason was. Because, Peter's to talking about all these different enemies, and he brings up Jason, and Maxie's like, yo, me and Jason are cool. Like, at the end of the day, he always has my back, regardless. And besides, he's Spinelli's friend, and, Spinelli would never do anything to hurt me or anything like that, so we're good. Pretty much what it really came down to, and I hate to sit there and say, is that, well, Peter was just having a hissy fit, or, whatever you want to call it, and Maxie was just there to calm him down. I don't want to sit there and say it was a panic attack, because it really wasn't a panic attack, and I really wouldn't make fun or tease about the whole panic attack thing, so it wasn't that, but it was just more like he was just complaining or being scared of something that might happen. I'm like, bro, you know what? If you didn't have so many skeletons in your closet, this is on you. Like, and now you're having your wife, who is pregnant with your child, try to calm you down. Awesome. Yeah, that's actually about it. I really want to make sure that I kind of covered everything, and just, I didn't want to really leave anything out. So, yeah. With that being said, that is the end of the episode. I am looking forward to tomorrow's episode, because I feel like everything is going to go... Oh, tomorrow's Friday. What a week. I'm sitting there thinking tomorrow's Thursday, so maybe, whatever. But yeah, tomorrow is going to go down. Whatever is going to happen, all this stuff, it's going to be pretty interesting. So... And I still got to look up. Well, there's two things I got to look up. One, is Julian's character being killed off, or is it just the actor that's moving on? I guess we'll find out. And my other little thing is, I forgot what the other actress that played Brooklyn looked like. Before the new one came in, I really forgot about her face. I don't even remember what she looks like. But with that being said, that's going to do it for this review. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of this episode. And, yeah. I'll catch you in the next review.